Alright, so before we go into this video, I just want to say that like any indicators that you use, there's always going to be a little flaw to it because indicators lag. Alright, so this indicator basically just helps you to know what would most likely happen on New York, right? And you can use your own strategy or you can use the Mario model. This was basically built around Mario model, so if you're using it, it's just gonna give you another extra edge, right, to know where the market would most likely go, right? Again, with that being said, Mario model doesn't need bias, but if you have bias, it gives you an extra edge. All right, so with that being said, let's go straight into this indicator. Okay, so this indicator marks out 3 key sessions. All right, your Asia, your London, and your New York. Let me just make that nicer. All right, so what it does is it tracks the Asia range. For example, Asia would set the range. All right, let's mark it in red. All right, next, London would most likely do a sweep either to the upside or it will sweep to the downside. All right, next, New York will give its confirmation, right, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to continue going down. All right, and then this whole thing gives you the bias. So usually before, or I mean when your New York session opens, after some time, or maybe before like 9:30, sometimes 10, it will automatically give you the bias. All right, I know you don't understand, but let me just make it super simple for you. All right, the whole idea is simple. All right, Asia sets the liquidity. Asia sets the liquidity. All right, London will give you the manipulation. It's either to the top side or the bottom side, right? And then New York distributes. All right, so this whole thing is the base concept of how price moves, right? Accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. Cool. So now there's only 3 things the market usually does, right? Number 1, the first thing the market does is called the London manipulation, right? Cool. So basically, I'll go through this in a while, all right? So just remember all the concepts, all right? Number 2, it's called the New York manipulation. All right, and lastly, number 3, it's called the depth profile. So now, let me go through it one by one, all right? So London manipulation usually is where London manipulates after Asia sets the range. All right, so London will sweep one side, then New York will run the opposite side. This is the basis. This is the basic thing, right? So for example, Asia sets the range, right? London manipulates. Let me set that in blue. And then New York distributes. All right, so this is how usually price will move. So anything you're gonna think about, the moment London sweeps your New York, even before it happens, right, even before the distribution happens, automatically in your head it's all right, we might get a London manipulation. All right, that's the first thing that has to be in your head. All right, the next thing is wait, I missed out something. I'm so sorry. So yeah, so the next thing is in London manipulation, we basically simply, all right, we just wait for Asia to be swept in London, and New York we expect to either sell or buy. All right, so the target becomes Asia lows. Don't worry, we'll go into chart examples later. All right, this video is going to be a bit lengthy, but it will help you guys because this indicator is only available for my VIP members, right? But if you guys are watching this video on YouTube and you're not in the VIP member, right, these tips that I'm telling you guys will help you, right? So this is London manipulation is the most common profile there is, all right? So when the indicator would show London manipulation setup, I will already be prepared for a reversal. All right, I will show you guys the live example later, but let me just go through this so we can get a little idea in our head first. All right, so for New York manipulation, it's super simple. All right, this happens when Asia, all right, I'm just gonna keep it to one color, right? When Asia's ranging, all right, this is Asia's range, right? And then London continues ranging, all right? Then New York decides to sweep aside. It can sweep either the top side, right? Or it can sweep the bottom side, all right? And then it decides to go all the way to the top, right? So then this would be your TP. Cool. This is super simple, right? Asia range, London range, New York's manipulate and distributes, right? So this is called New York manipulation, all right? So this usually happens when London is slow for the day, right? This usually happens then, but our most common profile would be this London manipulation, all right? So last but not least is the dev profile. So what is this dev profile, right? So this is the most important profile because when these two profile happens, right, you will never know if you're gonna get a dev profile, right, until certain things in the market that you see, like it keeps creating a lower low or it keeps creating a higher high. Only then you will get to know that it's a dev profile. So it's safe to say that at any point of time we would assume that either one of these is going to happen, but with this indicator, right, it will actually help you to see the dev profile. But even if you don't have the indicator, just remember, if there is when the market only takes one side, right, for example Asia, right, ranging, London sweeps the high, right, and it's continuously like that. So the first thing that will come into your head is, oh, okay, in New York we might get a London manipulation, right? But instead of going down to sweep London lows, what it does is it doesn't sweep London lows, but it just continues making higher highs, right? And it goes up. So now this is called a dev profile. Same thing, right? Imagine Asia ranges. This is Asia range. London sweeps the low, but continues going down, or maybe it ranges, right? And then during New York, it goes up a little, but doesn't sweep the high or the low. And then it continues making lower lows and lower highs, right? You get the idea. So that is called a dev profile. All right. So this is a trend day. Do not fight it. Just go with the trend. All right. So now let's look at the charts. All right. So this is how you're going to get the charts, right? You're going to see boxes of colors, and then some indicators here. And then at the top right, you're going to see a checkbox. All right. So direct your attention to the top right. I'll just go through it first. All right. The first, on the left side, you're going to see Asia range. This is basically most of the time going to be ticked because with the idea that Asia is going to create a range, right? So it will be ticked. right? So on London, right, you will get to see whether London manipulated, right? So in this case, let's look at these three, right? The blue, green, and the red, right? Not necessarily you have to be on 5 minute, you can be on any time frame and it will still show the same thing. All right, so yeah, so if you look at this, right, without even looking at the box, just look at this. The green color is London. What do you see? London swept Asia low, right? So that is what it says there. London manipulation setup long, which means to say that during New York, we can look for long, right? And as you can see on New York, it actually swept lower, right? So this is just anticipating, right? It's telling you it might be a London manipulation because that's the most common profile, right? But the profile is what tells you in the end what are we really doing. Then again, I repeat myself, as to any indicators, these sometimes also give false signal, right? Because there's no indicator that can give you a 100% signal, right? It gives you an estimation, right? But 90% of the time, or maybe 80% of the time, from what I've tested it with, it tells me the correct thing, right? So the last thing that you're going to look for is only this two, right? Profile, what is it going to say? New York expectation, what is it going to say, right? The best that I've found is to look at it in the 5 minute, because sometimes on the 1 hour, right, the candle is big, so it will just show you like this: Asia low swept, yeah, something like that, because it doesn't have much. How do I say this? The New York is not yet open, so it just gives you something like that. But the profile and the New York expectation will be there, right? So let's take a look at the indicator. For the indicator, don't change anything in the settings. Maybe what you want to change, you can change the colors, right, to make it look better. Like for example, I just changed the color of the text, right, to black, right? So you need to double click, change all this. I mean, don't change the timings, but just change the colors if you want, right? Don't touch anything else. Everything's already set, right? So now let's look at previous data and see how correct this is going to show us, right? So remember, blue is Asia, green is London, red is New York. All right, cool. So as I said, look at this, like it has gaps and it's not even and all that, right? So the best way to look at it, just go to the 5 minute and look at it. That would be the best that you can do, right? So yeah, let's look at this for now, right? Asia ranged, all right, we don't care about that. London swept. So what would you think that this is gonna show us, right? The most common thing, which is London manipulation. You would expect that maybe in New York we're gonna go up, right? So let's wait for 9:30 to open, right? Look at this, it's showing me, okay, New York is going long. Right, it's 9:35. So according to Mario model, right, at 10 o'clock we trade. But with this, if we get a profile before 9:30 or after 9:30, we can just trade it, right? As long as, London is showing me, okay, it's a long setup. Okay, we could be possibly having a long setup, right? So in the case of, let's say I had a setup here, right, I would have just took maybe a CISD on the 1 minute, right, maybe somewhere around here, right, and aimed Asia highs, right? So let's see whether it hits Asia highs. I mean, it's already halfway there. Yeah, and that's a 1:7.84, right? Like, come on. And look at this. Right after it hits Asia, it shows you, yeah, it's a manipulation confirm. So always, right, always assume when there's nothing else in the profile, right? Because if it's a dev profile, it will automatically show you here because I've added ATRs and everything into this indicator, right? So it will definitely show you here. But if you see it going up, you should already assume that this could be a common Asia range, manipulation, and distribution, all right? So let's see what happens next. Yeah, it goes all the way down because it's already doing its thing here, right? It's already done its thing. So it's going down, back to sweep some lows, and then going back up, things like that. All right, cool. So that is something that you can take away with, right? Because we trade until 11:30, I guess. Yeah, so if we get a setup here on sells, we just take, because Mario model doesn't need bias, remember that. But this is basically for the pre-Mario model, like at 9:30, right? So let's go ahead, let's look at this. So Asia's ranging. All right, let's see what new all right, so London swept Asia high, so most common profile, London manipulation. So let's see. Cool. So what are you expecting here? A distribution, right? So as you can see here, right, exactly at 9:30, we came up, we tapped this. Let's say we had a sell here, or rather, let me just go to the 1 minute. Cool, we had a CISD here, stops there. Where is my Asia, man? My Asia's all the way here, right? I see that there's a 1:2, and yeah, that's cool, right? Let's go back to the 5 minute. Let's see if we get another setup, and it continues going down, right? Look at that, we had a setup here. At a 5 minute tap, and it went down again. This could have been another 1:2, right? This is the Mario model, so you already know the price is going down. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. So this just helps. Let me try to find a dev profile, so at least I can show you guys how it triggers it. All right, so you see, for this, right, this, the indicator gave us a wrong thing, right? So during London, it already swept both. So what is this? Remember what I said, right? This is a New York manipulation, but instead it showed us as a bullish dev profile. All right, but remember what I said beginning, right? Asia range, London range, because this ranged and then this swept both sides and ranged, right? So this is a New York manipulation, right? We get a downtrend. Look at that. But this detected as bullish dev, right? So sometimes, as I said, right, sometimes general knowledge of how this works will save you some trades. All right, so now we're assuming it's a manipulation. Let's look at what happens. It didn't, right? And look at what the indicator said. So remember, right, the most common one is London manipulation. So at this point, we would be expecting, oh, we could be manipulating. Look at London setup, right? Okay, we could be manipulating. Let's look at what the indicator says. So because of the ATR that is in effect for this, right, it shows me that, oh, okay, cool, we got a bullish dev profile. Let's see, right? We had a 5 minute gap right here. We see that the indicator shows that bullish dev profile, right? Cool. Did we range? No, we didn't range. So you have to do your due diligence also, like check it out and all that. So in this case, we're just gonna aim maybe 1:2, 1:3. That's totally up to you. Or you can even aim previous session highs, right? That's totally up to you. I mean, I know it went up, but I don't know how high it went. Let's see. Yeah. So we hit stop loss, but if we go for 1:3, 1:2, I think that's fine, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's how you use discretion, right? So this is literally the indicator, guys. It will just show you bullish dev means it's just continuously going to go up, bearish dev is going to go down. It does show New York manipulation, but I don't think we had any New York manipulation in the past week. Let me just take a look at the last setup. Yeah, we don't, right? And look at this. This did the same thing, right, as the previous example. And what was the example? Asia range, London range, right? So we would expect a New York manipulation, but look at what the indicator says, right? I'm gonna go candle by candle so that I don't miss any. All right, look at that. New York expectation continue higher. Profile bullish def. Right? So at this point, in your head, you could be like, okay, we might get a New York manipulation, right? But at the same time, this is showing me bullish def. Okay, the only reason this indicator would show you bullish def profile or bearish def profile is because there are ATR, as I said, set into place. So the moment it goes 25% higher, it automatically says that the volume is there and it wants to go higher. All right, look at that. We tapped into it and we continue flying up, man. So that's a good trade. That would definitely have been a 1:2 at least. Let me look at a 15-minute. Look at that. Right, that would definitely have been a 1:2 at least. So if I'm gonna go back, right, let's look at this one. Let's say we had everything, right, SMT, blah blah blah, and all that. Took a trade from here. Definitely I wouldn't have taken a 59 stop loss. Would have taken something here. 1:2. Cool, we hit it, right? We even went higher than that. So yeah guys, so this is the indicator. All right, so let me just go through it again. There's only 3 profile: London manipulation, New York manipulation, def profile. I'll just recap one last time. All right, so remember this: London manipulation is basically Asia range, London manipulates, right? New York distributes. This is London manipulation. Now New York manipulation, right? Okay, most of the time, right, New York manipulation does this: Asia range, London range, and usually it's in the same range. All right, it doesn't sweep high and then sweep low, although it does sometimes, right? But most of the time it stays in the Asia range. All right, keep that in mind. And then Asia range, New York range, London range, and then New York manipulates and distributes. All right, this is New York manipulation. Def profile is Asia range, sweep. On London range, sweep. Right, that is most commonly known as the def profile, guys. All right, so with that being said, I know this is a long video, but I hope you guys take away some things from here, right? So this is how I combine the bias with the Mario model. And first I let the session basically tell me what the market wants to do, right? By looking at this, right? So I get a general idea. Cool. And then I use every confluence that I have to use for Mario model and I do it. So this keeps me trading in the right direction, right? I've been using this for some time, but it's just that I mentally draw it out, right? And recently I just have no time to do it because sometimes I come home late, right? And I got no time to do that. So I just coded it into an indicator for you guys. So this indicator is, as I said, exclusive for VIP members. So spend some time studying the profiles, right? And you'll start predicting the New York even before it opens. With that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace out.